Same.
Welcome to this week's episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside, a Matter of the Heart. I'm your hostess, Lisa Drennon, and I am here with the beautiful Joeann Hall Crafton. She is a woman who seeks to share her journey in order to help others along this journey called life. She is an author. She has been through a healing journey. And as we all know, this isn't a healing journey that is something that happens in an instant. It's a daily healing journey. It's a daily choice to make that decision to forgive yourself and to go back and to grieve. And when we can grieve things that we've done, we're able to heal from them. So thank you so much, Joann, for sharing this platform with myself and my audience. We're so excited to hear your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from? What was life like before you started this journey of healing for yourself?
So I grew up in Kansas, Washington, and live in Vancouver, Washington currently. And life was miserable before I started the healing journey. It was really, nothing seemed to go well. And it just was dark and it felt icky and it wasn't a good place to be. And so I'm so thankful that I did, start healing and start this journey.
Yeah, you wrote, I had you fill out a little questionnaire for me, and you wrote how bitter and miserable and broken and wounded, and those wounds were so deep, all the way from childhood. So when did it come to the point where you just like had enough and you were like, this is it, I'm done being this broken, miserable person?
Well, it went clear through to my 30s. And I remember walking into church one day and literally felt like Moses because the church crowd just separated. And I'm looking around going, I'm the only one that walked in. I'm the problem. And that really did not sit well with me. And so after that, the brain surgery gave me an opportunity to sit with myself and to see the bitter, broken, wounded mess that I was. And I wasn't happy with that. And so I sought therapy and learned to forgive the offenders, the people in my childhood who didn't protect me and, were assigned to do that, your parents, your family members. And so I started that healing journey. And I never thought that I would be able to get to the point where I was able to say that I forgive the offenders. I forgive my mom and my dad for not protecting me. I forgive my siblings for not being my friends. And I forgave myself for becoming who I was, when a lot of times we don't really know, what's happening to us. We just know that we're like subject to all of the things that happen to us.
Yes, absolutely. And we often blame, we turn into that victim mode and we often blame others and we don't see. So I love that you were able to get that epiphany where you're like, wait a minute, I'm the problem. I'm the only one that can change. I can't change all these other people. And when we can take that stance and realize we only, draw a circle and stand in the center of it, and you're the only one that can change. You can't make anyone do anything. And you had mentioned about not wanting to forgive the people that you thought should have, felt should have protected you. What changed your heart? What was your understanding of forgiveness at that point?
And I read your book and I love your analogy on forgiveness, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But, realistically, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we can't change anyone else. We're only responsible for changing ourselves and doing what we can to better the situation. And so, that happened later in life when I realized that I really did not have the power to change anyone else. And the other part of that was realizing that the only power that I do have is to do the best with what I've got. And also, again, to work on myself. That's the only thing I can change. And also finding out that we're giving power to the offenders, we're giving power to the people who didn't do what they should have done. And the bottom line is we can't change any of it. So we're beating a dead horse per se. And again, I had to take back my personal power and realize that I could only do what I could do.
Yes, absolutely. And that's such a great analogy of what you need to do to take back your power, because when you refuse to forgive and you hold everybody else responsible for what happened, and even though they do have a part, I mean, there's still a consequence, but it releases you and they don't have that hold over you any longer. So you had mentioned using different modalities to heal. You talked about therapy, you talked about in your form that you filled out about a group utilizing a book called from Dr. Dan B. Allender called The Wounded Heart. I love that title. What was that all about? What was that? It was obviously focused on being hurt.
Mm-hmm. It is such an in-depth, it's almost like taking a counseling session. And so you have the workbook and you read how to do what you need to do. And then in the workbook, you implement that. So that's where you do your work. But it's, it's really difficult to go back in, and it's like you're reaching back into the past and you're pulling back those things. But I looked at it like this. So either you stay in the wound or in the hurt, and it penalizes and punishes you and tortures you for the rest of your life, or you go back in one more time to cleanse it. And when you cleanse it, then you get rid of the triggered feelings, you get rid of the emotions, and so I can tell my story now without crying, without being upset, without being triggered, and that's healing, and that's what we want. And it's not that we don't want to remember the things that we went through, because I believe that that's like leaving an open, raw, gaping sore in there unhealed. And so we have to go in with the intent to cleanse these. So now when I tell my story, it's my story, and I'm aware that it's my story, but I'm no longer triggered, and I'm no longer hurt, I'm no longer offended, I'm no longer living in the pain of those memories. And so it was but it walks you through everything. And one of the things that I have noticed that a lot of people don't say is that we have a right to feel our feelings. We have a right, even if other people don't like them. And a lot of people aren't going to like them, probably the people that perpetrated those sins against you. And so, but we still have the right to feel our feelings, and we still have the right, to be heard and understood. And I felt that way for the very first time in a very long time by doing the book.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing study, and it really digs deep into the heart wounds. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that it's all a matter of the heart. When you're hurting, it's unprocessed feelings, emotions that got buried, and they manifest themselves elsewhere. For me, they came up as anger and frustration, people pleasing, imposter syndrome. And I didn't even understand what was the root cause. And when a lot of times I feel that women believe that if they work on their past, things that they have suffered through as a child and experience, that's going to relive those moments. Did you have that experience, or can you speak on that?
About working on me?
Yeah, when you worked on the stuff from the past, did it reopen the wound, or was it a different type of work where you understood it, you worked through it, learned from it? Because some people are afraid, some women are afraid to work on their past and heal from it because they're afraid they're going to get memories that are going to make it more devastating for them.
Well, I think it is devastating because we are living through it again when we're going back into it to cleanse it. But again, I think part of that has to happen with I wanted to get better, and so I stopped that, and I intentionally dove in exactly with the intent to do that. And so, and I don't, I'm not a doctor, but I know that that it is really hard to replay those memories. But again, as we heal, the memories change because, again, we're not reactive, we're not affected, and we're not hurting or, being wounded as a result of working on them. And so I found that as I went through the process, the less pain it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we were working on it and, actively seeking healing so that I wouldn't be triggered and wouldn't be wounded any longer.
Right, exactly. I love that. So is that what inspired you to write your own book, your own story?
Well, actually, the Lord told me to write it. And I started writing it, and I got done, and I was sitting there one day at the computer, and I'm like, I'm done. And he was like, what? This? And I'm like, yeah, you told me to write it. And he goes, nobody's going to want to read that. It's angry, and it's hurtful, and it's mean, and it's hostile. And I said, yeah, that's my feelings. And he's like, well, take all that stuff out and tell the story. And I was like, really? So I did. And again, it was therapeutic in its own nature, writing that stuff and taking it all out so that I could get to the heart of the thing, because what God wanted me to share was not what people did or didn't do that they should have done, but what did I do? How was my reaction? Was I reacting in the right way? Was I getting healed, and was I working on it? And so it's been a journey exactly of taking a different road, realizing what you have the power to do and realizing what you don't. And but ultimately, with God is my pilot and I'm the co-pilot, that shifted when I was in the middle of the book. It shifted, and it was like, because I learned to trust him through this journey and realized that he never turned, he never left. It was me that did that. And so it built a huge amount of trust with him and in my life, and then realizing that I'm nothing without him. And it's just been an amazing journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What's your book called?
It is called Taking a Different Path, Finding Joy in the Journey.
I love that. That's beautiful. I got the crossroads there on the cover. That's amazing. And can that be ordered on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all those great sites?
Every major platform. We've even found it on Target. We've found it. It's available on Kindle also. Kindle's very affordable. And but I like to mark on my books, and I like to highlight things.
Yeah, me too. I still like a paperback. I'd rather get a book than the Kindle. I've done a few Kindle things, but there's something about holding a book. I've been an avid reader my whole life. So something about holding a book is just really amazing while you're spending time reading it. So if you can give advice to somebody has a wounded heart, is holding on to unforgiveness towards their offenders, what advice would you give them?
One of the greatest things that I did for myself was starting to journal. Journaling is such a beautiful tool because it takes the wounds, the reactions and the feelings from here and here and gets them out on the paper. And for me to be able to see those things, I'm able to work on them. I'm able to go, wait a minute, I was mad about that. That's not even something that's my offense or my wound. It belonged to somebody else. And so I was carrying around something from somebody else. But journaling to me was probably the best form of therapy because it took it from my mind and my heart and my emotions and my feelings and got it out on paper where I could actually look at it and be more objective with it. So again, when you're working through these things, if you're objective instead of subjective, means your feelings are attached to it. Whereas when you move it outside of yourself, you're objective to it. And that helped me immensely. We live in the information highway. There's the internet, and there is so much help out there now. And just deciding to do that for yourself is a gift that only you can give.
Yeah, investing in yourself that way, taking the time and doing the work is so important, and the end result is so beautiful, because it really does change the way your perspective is so different, and you just changes everything around you and brings you that peace, that joy that we're all searching. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. What's the best way to connect with you?
I'm on Facebook, Joeann Hall Crafton, Joeann Hall on Instagram, Joeann Hall on YouTube. And those are the major platforms that I use the most.
Well, awesome. Well, we'll include those links in the description. So anyone who's listening, if you'd like to connect with Joeann, you'd like to get her book, you can find the links in the description. And if you know someone who would benefit from hearing this story, please share it with them. And we would love to hear your comments, your feedback, your questions. So leave a response, leave a reply, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite site, wherever you listen to a podcast or on the YouTube if you're watching this over there. So thank you. And remember, it is a choice. Healing is a choice. It's a daily journey. And there are triggers, there are things that are going to come sneak back. But as Joann had shared, the more you share it, the more you process it, those tears become different. They become cleansing, they become healing. And it really is a matter of the heart.